There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Anyway.
All right, with that said, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, Nick, as always. We're back to talk Twilight Zone, new episode, of course, the famous, iconic Twilight Zone series that was created by Rod Serling. As you know, we do this every week, or at least we try to, unless something major comes up. As always, if you want to reach us, not reach us, but listen to us, we are on audio feeds as Apple and Google. We're also on my YouTube channel. For some reason, some way, people talk to me. I had people actually comment on, or had someone comment that actually knew you, Triv. So nice. They, I was like, oh, what was your favorite episode? And I think he said the Invaders or something. So I said there's gonna be a knockout, drag out fight when the Invaders comes up for number one, apparently. So,
oh, was that Judge Fish?
Yes,
I don't know the guy well, but he commented on my retweet of yours. That the Invaders was his fave. So.
Yeah, so apparently I'm gonna be like the one dying on the battle hill when this episode comes up. Well, this is gonna be the episode that breaks us.
Look forward to it.
Exactly.
That's right. You can see I'm ready to fight.
And so those lovely voices you hear are the first one is the animated character who will always detach her body from her anus when becoming a mystic of Bali. And that, of course, is Triv from Trivial Theater. I come up with this like last minute too. It's great.
My head detaches from my body. My body does not detach from my anus.
I like the anus.
Yeah, detach your body from your anus.
Just roll with it.
No, you... fine.
Detach your body from your steaming cup of Uranus.
Fine. Okay. Yep. That'll be my new bio. My whole body detaches from my Uranus.
Exactly. So how are you doing, Triv?
Doing okay. Can't complain too much. How about you?
I'm here.
Hey.
Doing things that are trying to kill me, apparently, my cough. But as well as we have another person here, as I always say, and that person, of course, is the man who loves to be nasty, but only if the nasty involves aliens, and that, of course, is Jacob.
Aliens and body fluid.
But clearly they are the mouth of madness of my heart, that type of thing.
Aww. Yeah. Well, when did you change your name from Nick to Nick as always?
I was gonna make a comment about that.
Yay, great minds.
Nick as always. What? Did I miss something?
I'm Nick as always.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was gonna say, well, Nick as always.
That's my new channel, is Nick as always.
I mean,
but yeah, so we're back. How have you guys been? I know everybody's doing usual. I know Triv is trying to stay warm in the 2-degree weather, and I know we're both toasty in the 60 and 70 degrees.
Y'all can kiss my ass.
Your Uranus?
Yes.
Your detached Uranus?
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that.
From the ball.
Detached anus.
But clearly those are referenced. Mystics of Bali was Triv's last video she put out as recording this video, and of course Jacob did the what was the name of that video? The seed, apparently seed, body fluids and stuff. So definitely check those out. So we're back. We're talking Twilight Zone, not bodily fluid.
Ideally speaking, no.
Exactly.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Wow. That was going. Yeah. Wow.
I was
anyway.
disappointed.
This is what we go to people when we have nothing else to say, and we all kind of like break for a second.
I mean,
we just start going, wow. Until somebody comes up and wow.
Right.
Usually that's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So well, I mean,
right, meow.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
Right. Wow.
So, anyways, we'll try and get back on target, because I know Triv is going to yell at me here in a second. So
stay on target.
I'm more than usual. I'm more worried about my computer going out here, because it already did it once tonight.
It won't be the first time. I mean,
Okay.
somebody's computer has to fall apart at some point in this podcast. So
I would be more worried about the computer I'm about to build. It might fall apart after when I use it.
What are you gonna use it for? Like a sex simulator or something? The way you're talking, I'm thinking you're gonna like try and bang it.
I mean, they have that kind of
peripherals.
Yes, they do. Yeah, I know.
Hey,
like Jacob spent all this money. What do you use it
and I
for?
got VR and a green screen.
I mean, you could have Beat Sabers, beating off sabers.
Yeah, beat some sabers.
How's nobody created that game yet? Beat off sabers.
I'm sure there's a
guarantee-
variation of it someplace.
I guarantee if you searched some variation of Beat Sabers XXX or something, it exists. There's at least a video.
Yeah.
I guarantee. If there isn't, I think it's rule 36, 7 or 8.
Rule
I can't
34.
remember. Is it 34? It is our duty to make it.
Yes. If there is porn of it, or if it exists, there is porn of it.
Yeah. And if there is not, and the next one is if there is not porn, it is your duty to make it.
You said duty.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Anyway.
Speaking of a person who probably watched a lot of different types of porn, we're going to talk about Long Live Walter Jameson, which is an episode that is what's that? Yeah.
Segue.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Exactly. I try,
Impressive. But most impressive.
Yeah. But this is season 1, episode 24. We're actually like 10 episodes away from the end of the season, believe it or not, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy that there's 36 episodes in this season. It's insane. But this episode is directed by Anton Leader, written by Charles Beaumont, which is kind of surprising with my feelings on this episode. But it's episode 173, 3621, 21st episode recorded. Original air date March 18th, 1960. Now, it is notable for having Kevin McCarthy as Walter Jameson, who is a guy who appeared in the Twilight Zone. The I said it last week, I forgot. It was the one with the kid and the faceless sister, and Nancy Cartwright getting eaten by a monster.
I know what it is. I know what one you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it, though.
It's the final one in the
movie. Is the final one?
No,
Joe Johnston. No, wait, no.
No, it's directed by Joe Dante.
Yeah, Dante. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
him and Joe Johnston mixed up.
They actually both worked on Star Wars, believe it or not. I think.
Nice.
Well, yeah, they both worked under Spielberg at one point in time too.
Yeah, and they one created Interspace and one created that Looney Tunes movie. So there you go. Or no,
and didn't one
no, he created both of them.
The Gremlins.
Yeah, Joe Dante.
Gremlins, right?
And Small Soldiers.
Yeah, Small Soldiers as well.
And Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh, I love Joe versus the Volcano. I didn't know he did that.
I think he did.
Let's just talk about Joe versus the Volcano instead of this episode.
Look, we have to talk about this episode. That's why people show up.
Do they show up? Do they show up for this episode?
Oh, would you fuck off and just start talking about the goddamn episode?
Anyways, it starts Kevin McCarthy, who I love. He plays Scrimshaw, of course, in Interspace. Great villain in that episode or that movie. Cough.
I like when he shrinks into the little midget.
No,
I'm sorry. Can you say midget? Small person.
Exactly.
Or mini. I don't know. Whatever's PC. Sorry, that's not me.
Well, I mean, actually, I think they. No, I'm not getting into this comment because we're gonna get ourselves in trouble. It also starts
dwarves. They're all dwarves.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing is what they want you to refer. Not when I say they, I don't mean.
We mean you people.
Small people, they, them. I don't mean people of diminutive stature. I mean, but like what you're supposed to call them is like little people or small people. I'm like, that sounds more diminutive to me than like midget or dwarf or something. Are they really taking offense to dwarf over little person or small person?
I don't know. Let's ask Peter Dinklage. He seems to be offended by everything now. So
he was the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs thing.
Yeah.
He said since they're making CGI dwarfs, he's like, you're taking jobs away from small people around the world. Like, really only 7 of them. Just saying.
Well, then one of the guys who's a little person, he's like, fuck you, Peter Dinklage. I want the job. Give me the fucking job. I need the money, goddammit. That's what he said. I'm like, you're amazing. So, anyways, this is also stars Edgar Stehli as Professor Samuel Kittredge, Estelle Winwood as Lorette Bowen.
She's so
and
freaking
Dottie,
awesome. I love Estelle Winwood.
She's the old woman.
Yep.
And Dottie Heath as Susanna Kittredge, which I think is only her name's only said once in the whole entire episode. It seems like.
I think they say Susan a couple times.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Susanna.
This is not karaoke, you dork.
So this episode, I have a lot of feelings about. I don't remember this episode at all, and I was watching it, and I really still don't remember watching this episode. I know I've seen it because I've seen every episode, but I don't remember this episode. I remember Kevin McCarthy in the movie, but I don't remember him in this episode. I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about this boring ass episode. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys remember seeing this? Oh, I think we have a knockout
spicy.
All right, gents, go to your corners. Clean fight.
Ding, ding, ding.
No hitting below the belt. Or
whoa. Face, no face, hitting below the belt. I think we're going there this episode. No, okay. So
I think you absolutely should aim for face.
There you go. Aim for the head. The dickhead.
The talking penis. Oh man. So I know, Jacob, where you stand, you haven't watched this in like 20 years. Do you actually remember this episode in any form or inkling before you watched it? Like you remember some episodes, but do you remember anything at all about this episode?
I did not. This did not seem familiar at all.
What about you, Triv?
I didn't remember anything.
I don't remember. I remember bits of it. Like I remember the parts in the classroom when he's reading from the book or from his diary, but the rest of it is, I was sitting there trying to figure out what was going to happen as it went along. And I mean, you kind of know where it's going, but you don't like really, it's like, oh, is the one character going to ask for the secret to immortality? You know, what's going to happen? And yeah, I really don't remember this one well.
Well, there's an episode coming up which actually deals with the same kind of idea, where it's the potion episode with the woman falling in love with him, which deals with like, be careful what you wish for. That's what this episode is. Be careful what you wish for, because you might end up getting it. And I like everybody in this episode, but I don't know how I feel about I don't know. We'll talk about it, but
it's complex.
I don't know how complex it is, but it's an episode.
I mean, your feelings on it are complex, not the actual episode.
Yeah. So anyways, this episode opens up with the traditional college music with the kids walking into the school, you know, very traditional music that plays over that, like do, you know, with the trumpets and shit.
One more time.
I don't know.
It's got quite the beat.
Yeah, I tried, but it's very traditional what it's trying to do, and it pretty much leads right into the opening narration. But it's actually in two parts. But like you always do, I think you'll read all at once. But Walter Jameson, long live, opening narration.
You're looking at Act 1, Scene 1 of a nightmare. One not restricted to witching hours of dark. Rain-swept nights. Professor Walter Jameson, popular beyond words, who talks of the past as if it were the present, who conjures up the dead as if they were alive. In the view of this man, Professor Samuel Kittredge, Walter Jameson has access to knowledge that couldn't come out of a volume of history, but rather from a book on black magic, which is to say that this nightmare begins at noon. What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know.
When he said it, I was like, begins at what? It begins at noon. Isn't the witching hour like 3 a.m?
I think he was talking. Well, and here's my thought. I'm not sure whether he's talking about like when Sam confronted Walter, as far as like, so where'd you get all that? You know, where'd you get this incredible book of knowledge? Or if it was when like Walter went home and he was spied on. I'm assuming it's when Sam raised the question of, you know, what is this book? Because that kind of got things rolling.
Is it really a black magic? I don't know.
I think it's kind of taking it in the direction of this clearly isn't like natural. There are weird things afoot, is what he's kind of saying, I think.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, didn't you say this was based, like felt very similar to like the 2,000-year-old man or something like that? Is that what you were saying, Trev? I think you said that like last week or something like that.
This one?
Because at
2,000
some
year old
point
man.
he had fallen asleep or something like that, or I know you
Oh,
had mentioned something.
the
Rip Van Winkle?
Rip Van Winkle thing. That was different. Like that was guys that fall asleep and like they have gold and stuff, and then they wake up and like gold isn't worth anything.
Or like Ash at the end of the original ending for Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about
Yeah.
2,000 year old man. But
I think I love that original ending more than I love the other ending. Wakes up.
The only
and he's
issue I
like,
had with the original ending was that we wouldn't have got the fucking amazing Ash versus Evil Dead. And we got a
Yes.
similar ending to that show, so they made up for it.
it's too bad they canceled that show. Such a shame.
I know it would have been so awesome if they had gone forward with where it went. Anyway, Twilight Zone.
Yeah, we could go many tangents. Apparently, we're gonna go on many tangents in this episode, but so we're introduced
Perhaps
to Walter Jameson.
Ash versus
What?
Evil Dead lives on in the Twilight Zone.
they very well could.
Exactly. So we're introduced to Walter Jameson, played by Kevin McCarthy. He is a professor of the civil. He's a professor of history, but he is talking about the Civil War. He brings out a book from a guy named Skelton, who we learn later that it's pretty much him. But with Skelton, he reads from it. The book is very on point with what the Civil War was doing. Like everything he talks about is like Professor Samuels is like, man, that is just too on the nose. And they finish up the class, they go out about the day, and Samuel approaches Walter Jameson. He's like, can I borrow this book? And he's like, no, I gotta go back to my home, until we find out later that he might be dating the daughter of this character. He's like, hey, you want to have dinner tonight, at the house? And he's like, sure. And that's pretty much where the opening portion leads. Like, this first act is only 9 minutes long, which was pretty crazy, but
Wow.
yeah, there's not really much to talk about. Like I said, it goes from that classroom to the point where he goes to his house. He leaves his house, and then we have the weird, strange woman just like staring at him. She came out like nowhere. She's like behind a tree and staring at him through, binoculars or
Old
whatever. I
creeper
don't know what
lady.
he's.
She's very sneaky, sir.
She's got the Morticia Adams light going on her eyes and everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
Would you expect less?
I don't know.
no,
There's
if
a lot
it
of
wasn't
creepy
there, I
people.
would have. It just wouldn't have done it for me if she didn't have the Morticia Adams light.
Oh, definitely
Exactly.
not.
Speaking of sneaky, I actually watched Mr. Deeds the other night.
Mr.
But
Deeds.
anyways.
Is she in Mr. Deeds?
No, when Trish says sneaky,
Oh, she
I'm like,
died in 80. She
Oh,
actually,
okay.
fun fact, she died in 84 at the age of 101.
Yeah, everybody in this episode apparently, well, a lot of the actors in this episode lived very long lives, which is probably just a coincidence. But
Who
yes.
was it though?
Was it really?
Was it?
well,
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
well, it kind of was because the writer died at 30 something of
Ah.
Alzheimer's. The fuck. He was like 32. Like he was like 32 years old, and he got
shit.
like early onset to Alzheimer's or something. And
I
he
didn't realize
passed away
Charles
from
Beaumont died that
complications.
early.
I think it was the writer. Maybe it was like the original writer of the story. Maybe it was Charles Beaumont. I don't know, but I did read that little fun fact while looking into this.
It's not so much a
Dude,
fun fact.
Well, I thought that little fact.
I know I'm being stupid. Yeah.
That means he died like 3 years after fucking writing all those Twilight Zone. Holy shit, I didn't know that. So rest in peace, Charles Beaumont, who I am officially older than now. That's kind of depressing.
Yay.
So anyways, I have to ask you guys, there was a shot, there's a couple shots in this episode, and the one in the college with the book, the holding of the book, like it like looks down on the book page itself. Did you guys notice that? Like how weird that shot was?
It was written on like modern paper. Like it was lined. It looked like it was lined.
No, I know, but like, did you see how like it's like the guy holding it? You can tell it's not Kevin McCarthy holding the book, but it's just like this weird shot.
It's like a pickup shot.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
What they did after the fact, yeah.
because they do that same thing with the.
I remember the shot because it did stick out, but I didn't notice it wasn't him.
Yeah,
But it did stick out because it looked weird.
Yeah, because I noticed it with the when you put up a picture,
Magnifying glass.
yeah, magnifying glass. Like it was the same type of thing where it was just like a close up shot. It's really weird. It was what they did in the 40s and 60s and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
as you can tell from the way I talk about this episode, I know you guys are apparently much more invested than I was, but I really didn't like this episode. I found myself just kind of wanting to move on to a new episode, but
Really?
Yeah.
Triv, what did you think, Triv?
I'd rather hold my thoughts until we get to that point.
Oh, I thought are we not at that?
Oh,
point?
I thought we were
Well,
gonna.
no, I mean, you guys can, yeah, you're more than welcome to say say what you need to say, because it's basically, like I said, the first act, which is only 9 minutes, is getting us to the house. We are introduced to Susanna, and they're having dinner and they're talking, and then Samuel pulls Kevin McCarthy's Walter Jameson into the room. He's like, I'm curious, like, how old are you? And he's like, 40 years old. And he's like, how's that possible? You're only 40 years old, but you were like 38 or something like that. Or no, you're 44 back when, or you were 38 or whatever back in the day when you got hired. You should be like 51 years old. And Walter's like, yeah, I'm 51 years old. He's like, looking at like,
whatever.
Why? Yeah. He's like, sure.
I did like how he was just like, yeah, whatever, 51.
Yeah.
I lost track.
But I like how he just kind of has that weird look. He's like, I think you're leaning into what I think you're leaning into, but I don't know if you really want to go there. He's that kind of like menacing look almost, but it's just, he basically, Samuel, after he talked to Walter Jameson earlier, he looked up skeleton and he said, I found this picture in this book. He holds up the magnifying glass, and of course it's Walter Jameson, who was known as Major Hugh Skeleton, who worked under
Tecumseh.
General Sherman.
Sherman.
Tecumseh General Sherman. And that's where the act ends. It literally ends with that picture with Sam's daughter. Apparently she's 31 years old or whatever, and she has to go get her college degree because that's like the most important thing in the world. Yeah, PhD. And her father, who is 70 years old, which is kind of a big difference. Is it his daughter or is it his
It's his daughter. It's his daughter. So he had her at about like 40 or whatever.
Okay. So basically that's where the episode leads off. It leads off with, them finding out that, of course, he is Skeleton. He was Tom Bowen. He's all these people. He's the 6 of us who end up dying, that type of thing. What do you guys...
the 2,000 years of us are dying.
Exactly. So what did you guys think of the first act? Like, it's 9 minutes long, which is the shortest, I think, of the entire series so far. Where do you guys stand on it? Like I said, I was just kind of bored. I almost went to look at porn because I was so bored. So
well, you don't have to be bored to look at porn. Let's be real.
Yeah, right.
But how about you, Triv? What did you think?
I was having, and I know it was written for a certain era, and we're talking about a guy that's been around for 2,000 years, but straight up, I had a real problem with the way that they treated Susanna. It's like, oh, well, you might be going after a PhD, but you're going to be a housewife, and I need to try your cooking, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, fuck you, asshole. That's me, though.
Yeah, they did. What did you... So you didn't like it?
No, it was...
it's fine.
It started an interesting conversation, and the fact that Samuel's followed a hint or what the hell is it called? A notion in his mind of, oh, this seems followed a hunch and kind of followed it along the path, and he's like, oh, hey, here's this guy in this book that clearly wasn't superimposed, later on or earlier on or whatever. So it was an interesting premise. What happens in the second act takes it places I have mixed feelings on. So also the fact that Samuel's asked Walter, how old are you? The night that he wanted to propose to Susanna, I was kind of like, okay, shouldn't you have asked this earlier? Maybe you've known the guy for 13 years, 12 years, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can take all of that. And I see where you guys are coming from, but I didn't go to say I love this episode, but I liked it to a degree. I like the idea behind it. And I actually really liked the episode, a little bit past the first half, up to the point to where he was explaining how it all happened and how he was immortal. And a lot of it was Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, Kevin McCarthy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought he sold it pretty well.
He did a great job. Yeah, did a good job with that.
And I just liked his character. Here's where I was with it. I liked the idea and where it was going, up to the point where he was explaining it to the old man, and the old man really didn't freak out. He just kind of admitted it, or he just accepted it, and he was like, well, how can I get on this? And
mm-hmm.
he was explaining like how, how it happened and then he went into this thing about how like, death is what makes life worth living and all that, which I thought was interesting because I just reviewed a movie not long ago called I Am Mortal. That was the whole premise of that movie, where everybody's immortal.
Oh wow.
But it's like they lost all purpose in life because there is no death. And it's a really interesting idea, I thought, with that movie. It was just executed badly. And I thought it was done better here. However, it's like I was really into it at that point, and then the final act happens, which is really only 2 acts, but the final part happens when the woman shows up and all that stuff. I didn't hate that, but I wanted more of the stuff that was going on in the middle. I wanted to know more about this guy and his life and all that stuff. This is one episode where I was like, I want more. I want to know more about. I just want more of that. Like what happens to him in the end. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I know there's going to be something that happens in the end. I wouldn't really call it a twist because there really wasn't much of the twist was that he was immortal, and we, that wasn't a huge twist. We kind of, picked up on that over time. But what happens in the end, I was kind of indifferent to. I think we'll get to it, but the effect how they achieved that for that time, I thought was pretty neat.
Oh, it was excellent.
Creative. I wasn't as impressed with the end as the idea behind the story and the questions that arose and how he explained how he got that way and how all that was going on. I just wanted more of that. And I was really digging it up to that point. I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. I like this little mystery about who this guy is. And I really like how Kevin McCarthy is portraying this. He was selling it. So yeah, up to this point that we're talking about in the episode, I was into it. I was liking it. I wasn't bored out of my mind. I mean, I wasn't like, this is the greatest Twilight Zone episode ever. But I was like, okay, yeah, this is like some like mid-tier, this is some good Twilight Zone so far. I'm liking where it's going. I really wasn't thinking about where it was gonna go. And usually with the Twilight Zone, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what's about to happen? Where's this going? I was more invested in what's happening right now. And that usually doesn't happen with this show, because you always know something's coming and you're trying to figure it out. And this one, though, I wasn't, because they kind of blew their load and just said, hey, yeah, it's an immortal guy. And he's sitting there just talking about how, like, hey, and he's talking about the how that affects a human being to not have death in their life and not worry about that kind of stuff, and how it sounds like it's a great idea, but it's not. And we've heard that story a bunch of times. And I'm sure it had been around prior to this episode. That's an age-old thing of what if I could live forever. But I just really liked how they kind of like went into a little bit more detail and some honest, like a real human detail about it. I thought that was pretty cool. And how they explained it, but they didn't over explain it.
Right.
He just said, hey, this it wasn't some mystical thing. It was this alchemist who was doing experiments. He ran some experiments on me. I don't know what the fuck he did. I went into a coma, woke up, he was gone, and I was immortal. I mean, he was, I don't know what happened, but he made it happen. It was the alchemist. I like that. That's like a good way of explaining it without over explaining it to where people can start poking holes in it. You can't really poke holes in, yeah, it was a science thing, but I don't know how, because I'm not a scientist.
Right.
So that worked. So yeah, I was liking it up to that point, but this was a different kind of episode for me. Like I said, I just wasn't, I don't know. It wasn't very, it was Twilight Zone, but it wasn't that, it didn't give me that feel of what's going to happen next. I was just interested in what was going on.
Right. Understood. I will say I thought it was really interesting that he says, just given the time and how generally religious a lot of media was, the fact that he picked Plato as to tell how old he was instead of like Jesus or something like that. I thought that was kind of an interesting point.
I don't have any problems like with what you guys are saying. My biggest problem with the episode is just it feels like it's like you said, it's missing an act somewhere. It feels like there's something. It would have been cool. I know they're on a strict budget. They have they only have like 1 or 2 sets they deal with in every episode. But wouldn't it be kind of cool to see like him in like the Civil War or back in Plato's the 2,000 years ago, and just kind of seeing that kind of stuff. Here it's just kind of 2 guys discussing things, and that does work sometimes, and it does work in a lot of episodes from Twilight Zone. But I just never feel like anything was that exciting. It just felt like 2 guys going, hey, you're old. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I found a book. Okay, I'm old. It's just like I don't know. I don't find that stuff interesting, which is weird because we're going to talk about an episode, The Howling Man, which is part of my intro, and it's just literally the devil and a guy talking, or what was supposedly the devil, and that felt like, and that's also written by Charles Beaumont, and it feels more interesting than this episode. This just feels like, he found out a guy who's 2,000 years old. I guess that's where I lie, and what I was just really kind of.
That's the thing, is that I agree. There's I think the idea, and I think what I liked about it was the idea and where
It's a good idea
to go. It's where they started to go, and I didn't mind the best part of the whole episode for me was the conversation these two guys were having and that dynamic. I just wish it had gone further, and I think what I liked about it was, like I said, the idea and where I saw it going.
Yeah,
it felt like it got cut short. It's like I didn't need to. It would have been fine if we had seen those things he was talking about, like you said. But even I would have been okay with them just talking about it if he had talked about it more and given it some of that little detail and told us some of those things in these stories. I'd be cool with these two guys just sitting there talking. I just wanted more, and not like, oh, they left me wanting more in just the right place. No, they left me wanting more, and it made me feel a little bit shortchanged and a bit empty because I didn't get everything I wanted out of it. I mean, yeah, I know they got the point across that he's old and he's been around for 2,000 years or whatever it is. Okay, fine. But that's the interesting part of your story. Tell me more. I would, like they said in Starship Troopers, do you want to know more? Yes, I do. I wanted to tell me more. And that's just not what I got. I found that, I don't know. And I don't know how interesting the episode would have been had they gone on it, just these guys telling stories and stuff. I don't know how they could have done that. I'm not the writer, but that was the part I liked the most. But like I said, on the flip side of that, it was the part that was a bit frustrating the most, because I did like it a lot, and then it felt cut short. Like Nick said, it almost felt like it was missing an act.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of my stuff lies. It doesn't feel, at least for me, like the way it jumps around, it didn't feel like it was all part of the same story. Like they're talking about, oh, well, and I guess they do kind of connect things with the love thing. And, I tried to fight loving her and all this stuff, but then they go from, I can't die, I would love to die, I'm a coward, I can't, for not doing it, to I'm going to marry your daughter regardless of what you say, to, out of nowhere comes person, that ends the story the way that it does. It felt like it felt like there was a bunch of ideas just tossed against a wall, and they kind of just didn't connect them.
That's the stuff I liked. I like that too. Is how I like the parts, the moral implications to a lot of the things he's doing, and about, how he would, like I said, about the whole, without death, if what is life worth living. And also, like you said, that was a really good point about how, hey, I've been married a bunch of times, and then they find out, and I wanted to hear more about that. Did they find out you were immortal and then they just left you, or you left them, or were you there just young forever with them until they died? And then how he just flips it, because we get the idea that he's immortal, but he's not a bad guy. But then all of a sudden he goes all villain, and he's like, I'm gonna marry her anyway, I'm taking her away. And you're like, what happened? I'm okay with that being his character arc, but I wanted to see how he got there. I want to know,
right?
Is he this person who just hasn't learned anything in all these thousands of years? Is he just been around so long he's bitter and gives no shits about anybody? Because that's not what you get at first. That's not the feeling you get about this guy. Yeah, and all of a sudden he's just like, I don't give a fuck about anybody. I'm just gonna take this chick. She's gonna cook me some dinner every night. Won't be as good as yours because you're a good cook. I'm gonna bang her when I want. Once she's old, I'm gonna toss her aside. I'm like, where'd this guy come from? So I would have been okay with that. I just want to know how you got there. And that's the part I was saying I wanted more explanation.
See, I even would have loved, and I know, again, it's one of those things where, we're talking about things that could have been versus things that are, but he mentioned some, a way to connect to historic events could have been he says, oh, well, the burning of Rome. Well, that was me. I started the fire to, because I was trying to roast marshmallows, and whoops, or, I sunk the Titanic because I wanted to, they I don't know.
Mad that my girlfriend Rose left me.
Exactly. She wouldn't have nookie with me in the back of an old car, or, whatever.
Speaking of, Nan actually drives along the side of the road before he crosses the street. So he just missed her.
Nice.
She's
No,
like,
what I was
"Oh,
gonna-
he's gonna get his in a minute."
What I was
She
going to
saw
say
another old
was-
lady over there by the tree, and she said, "Oh, this one's yours."
Yep, exactly.
No, what I was going to say was, you know what would have made this episode better is if they had done Grease's Summer Nights when they were like, "Tell
God.
me more." They just did a whole song and dance. It would have been amazing. But as you guys have talked about, we'll go into Act 2, which is what you guys have been talking about. A lot of, just kind of what you guys thought. But I mean, it opens back up. We, of course, we're in the same area. Basically, he admits that he's Walter Jameson, but he said, like, how do you figure it out? He said the ring was Samuel, the ring was a dead giveaway. And, like you said, he's been around since Plato. And it's really funny that the guy has a bust of Plato. And he's like, I knew Plato, which makes me wonder, is he older than 2,000 years old? Or is it just is a happy coincidence or ironic coincidence that Plato was in this guy's house and he was around when Plato. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's the same thing that they did for however far it was for Third from the Sun, where they're like, oh, we've traveled 56 million miles or whatever the number was. They just picked a random point and called it good.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't know.
No.
They don't know.
They had no clue. how far
I'm
it-
sure they knew how far back Plato went, but
Miles thing.
no,
They
no,
didn't
I
know.
know.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, how far do you think our planet is from Earth? I don't know, 50 million miles. All right, write it down. Set it down.
500,000 quadrillions like that way. They just make it fucking-
I will say one of the things, and
Parsecs.
I should have brought it up sooner, but I just kind of thought of it. Like the way that this episode was going when Samuels and Jameson were talking, like I kind of thought that that Samuels was going to try to be like, teach me this. I don't care what it takes. I want to be this, even though I'm 70. Like he talked him out of it. It would have been kind of cool to see it go in the other direction where somehow he becomes immortal himself. Like at the very end.
I was gonna say that's where they were leaning towards. They made you think that Samuel was going to go that route, and he's like, teach me your potions or whatever. And it's like, I don't think that's how this works. But then like they have like the ending of this episode is so infuriating because of how it plays out and how it positions itself and how like leaps of logic that you have to take. But like you were saying, it's like, would it be interesting for like, it would say Walter Jameson dies and the power just like ekes onto Samuel or something like that. And it just, I don't know. I mean, like he talks about how living forever is worse than dying. And, it's just like how miserable he's been watching his whole family die and watching everyone he loves die. And apparently one of his wives didn't die at the moment. I don't know. It's really weird, but I don't know. What were you guys going to say?
Well, that's what led me to believe that he left him before he got old, so they wouldn't know that he was immortal. Like he would
That's
just
true.
leave him. And also
Yeah.
the whole power transferal thing. I think that they were trying to go for a more realistic route. That's why they
Yeah,
went with the whole
agreed.
vague alchemy thing. So like the power, it wasn't really a power, it was just
The thing that
scientific.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, they figured something out scientifically. So he couldn't really transfer that, I don't think.
No, I know. I just like that whole however it was, that would have been an interesting thing. Like I don't know, like having your glasses smashed, when you're surrounded by books, kind of an ending.
And see that what you guys are talking about, that's what I meant, is like typically in an episode, I'm looking for that thing. Okay, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? What's going to be that ironic twist of fate? But I guess there was one with the old lady, but it really just didn't stand. That wasn't the kicker of the episode for me. It happened, and I was just like, okay, and I mean, everything
Right.
before it is, I was more curious. I was more interested in hearing what this 2,000-year-old person had to say about all the moral implications of living forever and how that makes you feel. I found that more interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, that's just me.
well, no, I mean that stuff's not bad. Like I said, it's to me it was a little dry, but like he talks about like living for 2,000 years, like you said, for living. I mean, he might be a little older than 2,000. How it's just a lonely existence, and it comes up. Be careful what you wish for approach, because he wanted this and he got this, and it's like wishing for money, and you get money, and then as much as we want money, like having Jeff Bezos style money. It could be, you buy everything. What do you do next? Whatever. But I mean,
Golden toilet seat.
yes, yeah, golden toilet seat. But he talked about he has a
Ridiculously
revolver,
priced computer opponents.
you could buy that $13,000 computer that you saw on YouTube, on Amazon or whatever. So he has a revolver, and he's never used it because he is terrified. He calls himself a coward, basically. I just like the fact that revolvers seem to be like the main object to use to kill people outside of Nan Adams. And
She's the number one. The number one cause of death in Twilight Zone.
but no, but like, then he, like you said, he switches modes and he's like, I'm gonna take your daughter away from you, and we're getting married in like 15 minutes or whatever. I'm gonna pick you up in 15 minutes. He's like, what is going on? What are you not telling him? He's like, the Sam's trying to protect his daughter from this guy who's been fucking more women apparently than any person in the existence of life. And it just, I don't know. It's just, to me personally, it was just,
I feel like they did that. I feel like they did that to vilify him. So when it came to the ending, because they'll do that in some stories. Like they want to, when somebody's going to get taken out or something bad's going to happen to them, you want to vilify them enough to justify that ending. And I feel like that's one of the reasons they did that, because he just had he swung. He was like over here where you're like, I mean, I guess it never really said he was a good guy, but you kind of got that vibe. I mean, even if the guy didn't know, the older man didn't know that Jameson was, 8,000 years old, he knew him for 13 years. He knew his personality. He knew him as a person, unless he was literally living a complete lie for those 13 years, because he said they were really close. So all of a sudden he goes fucking Megamind master villain. I mean, I'm just like, I don't buy that. I feel like they did that just so when this old lady shows up and takes him out, which I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when that happens, it's like, oh, okay, I don't feel so bad because he was a douche.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you actually, it's funny because like it almost feels like a tug of war with this poor woman. She's like, I love him, but he's like, you can't go with him. And Walter Jameson's like, fuck you, she's coming with me in 15 minutes. Is like, and on top of that, he lives like right across the street from this guy. Like, I thought that was
weird. That was so strange.
Like,
I thought he was walking into somebody, like he walked out of somebody else's house or something. I was like, what's going on here?
Which apparently is the house from Time Machine, the original Time Machine movie, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. So this leads Walter Jameson to cross the streams, whatever you want to say. And he goes into this house, and what is he writing? He writes that he gets out a piece of, he sees a gun, he pulls out the gun, which is a foreshadow about 5 seconds later about what's going to happen. But he looks at the gun, he puts the gun down, then he pulls out a parchment of paper. I'm like, is he writing? Is he now have a guilty conscience and he's going to leave her? Like, I don't understand what he's doing. I don't know. And then that's when we meet. That's when Lorette Bowen comes into the mix, and she's, do you remember me? And Walter Jameson's like, no, you're not 31, so I don't remember you anymore. And it's like Walter Jameson's either acting stupid or he just doesn't want to admit that he knows this woman. But I think he's acting stupid. But we get to the point where this is where the leap of logic comes into the mix. So he's never been able to be killed, or he's been close to being killed. He lives forever, and all it takes is one old lady grabbing the gun and shooting him for him to die. I think the way he dies, like, it's pretty cool. The way they do it, the way they show the effect of how
they
it
did
happens.
a great job with that.
Yeah, apparently like how they use the lighting and stenciling on the face is how it works. But am I the only one that thought that was fucking weird and stupid? Like, it took one bullet for a guy that's been around for 12,000 years. It's just like, what the fuck is?
First of all, did she even shoot him? That was my question, because I was watching it.
I think she did.
You hear the gunshot. I'm led to believe that, but like it never references that he was shot. He's sitting there and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm getting old. And I guess she was supposed to have shot him, and that kicked off, okay, your mortality's gone now, I suppose. Why he started to age, I don't know. But doesn't sound very scientific to me, but fine. But like it never, you hear a gunshot from off screen, and then he goes in there. He's not like in the floor. There's no blood. I get that there's no blood, but she's just gone. Yeah. And it's like, I think she shot him. Did she shoot him? I'm not 100% sure what she did to him. Did she put a voodoo curse on him? And then he
Well, that's
just
what I
like, fades away into the dust.
Well,
in
that
the
could raise
wind.
the question of, was she real, or
I
was it
mean,
was it a guilt thing of his imagination?
Oh, yeah, brought on by this whole thing with taking another wife.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't even have a problem with her. As weird as this, I don't have a problem with her shooting him. But if he's able to evade all these times that he's been almost killed, and then she shoots him, like, I'm thinking, like, you're immortal. You've been given this potion to be immortal, and yet you die. I mean, there is blood on his shirt, so he has been shot. But it's just like, oh, what the fuck? And then he dies.
I didn't see
Indiana
that.
Jones. Oh yeah, he has blood on his shirt, but he dies like Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade
I
style.
couldn't I
Yes.
couldn't stop
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Exactly.
He chose unwisely.
Yes, exactly.
But I
But,
thought the last. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't remember what else to say. I think I had some point to make, but then I lost it. It's gone.
No, there is no point. It's be careful
Cut
what
that
you
out.
wish for. It's leaps of logic. It's Charles Beaumont was probably on acid or something. I don't know.
Wow. Well, there was
Wow.
an interesting thing in there, and it was another thing that didn't quite make sense, kind of in the
Mhm.
grand scheme of this. So when Estelle Winwood comes in, she says, "I saw a photo of your engagement, and I knew without doubt that it was you." And I was just thinking, Susanna and Jameson hadn't even gotten engaged yet. So what the hell was that about?
And does she live in this town? Does she
I don't
live
know.
there? I mean, like, I don't know much about the 60s, but do marriages get put around the country? Do they just show up in everyone's paper? I'm like, her showing up just doesn't make any sense at all. And the gunshot doesn't make any sense to me. That's just me. And then Susanna coming in.
Well, I loved his reasoning as to how he survives, because the old man actually brings it up.
Yeah.
He makes explain that he is immortal, but he's not invulnerable. And he even says, he could have put a bullet in his, put the barrel of a gun in his mouth. But
I didn't know how it was going to turn out,
and
though, if he did, right? I think they
the
said,
guy was I don't know, we're led to believe that yes, he can die. He's just not going to die of natural causes. Like he
Right.
could get sick, he could get hurt. And even the old man says, Samson or whatever his name was, he says, so you're telling me you've been around all this time, things happen to people and you've never been hurt or injured or anything? And his explanation was, some people are just lucky like that. I'm like, some people are just lucky like that. That's your explanation. Okay.
He lived through like the Black Plague and shit. I mean, come on.
lived through
I mean,
Civil
I mean,
War.
Yeah.
Maybe illnesses don't kill him. It has to be like blunt trauma. I don't know, but
Yeah.
You think?
I mean,
you think water kills him?
like in Split, not Split.
Yeah, like
Glass?
2
Yeah,
inches of water. Yeah.
I was thinking the aliens from Signs.
Well, that too. Apparently, like like in The Jerk, M. Night Shyamalan hates this water. I don't know, but then it. God.
Would it have been like he allowed himself to die? Like, he wasn't shooting himself. Maybe it was I've lived for so long, I'm ready to say goodbye to things, and maybe letting go of that is what allowed him to die.
I mean, he did
Or
say he
maybe
was
when
a
she
coward,
showed up, he
so-
was ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
clearly been wanting death, but he had been attached to life for so long, he didn't know how to let go of it.
Right.
He was scared to let go of it. But when somebody showed up to take him out, maybe he was like, all right, go for it.
Oh,
Whatever.
I'm ready. I don't know.
Oh, why in the gut? You couldn't do it in the head, you bitch. This is why I left you. I thought it was because you're getting old, because you're fucking bitch.
Yeah, they were at a shooting range, and she kept hitting everybody in the gut. And it's like, or every those things in the gut, and he's like, "Damn it, woman, fuck it, I'm leaving you." He's hoping
Aim for the
Susanna
head.
would, aim for that.
Are you a
I
better
don't
shot?
know. I like you said, the main Susanna walks in, she sees the dust gets blown away or whatever, and it's just like there's something truly missing. There's just something truly off about this episode that just doesn't feel like it's not even the cast. They're doing the job that they're hired to do, and they do it pretty well, but it's just like, I think
I'm
coming
with you on
after
that. I get that.
yeah, it's like coming off those
It seems
monsters to do
off.
on Maple Street and World of Difference, and then you come to this episode, you're like, man, it feels like coming off a 6-month bend, like a 2-week bender or something like that. It's just like everything sucks.
Hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
I'm like weirdly, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this episode because, like I said earlier, I really liked where it was going and how it was doing it. But the last act, or the whole part after the two guys talk. Everything that happened after that, I was just thoroughly uninterested. And I know you were saying that you were less interested in the part leading up to all that, and all that stuff was just stupid. And I get that, because all that stuff just seemed like it was tacked on. It didn't seem like the same show, the same episode. It was just like, it's like they wrote this neat exchange. Like, okay, we've got this 2,000-year-old guy or 15,000-year-old guy, whatever, and he's wanting to marry somebody, and he's talking to the dad, and the dad figures out he's old. What conversation would go on between this young guy who's actually older than this old guy? Both of them are seasoned and have a lifetime of experiences and knowledge, and they're going to put their heads together and talk about this. What type of things would come up? I find that really interesting. I'm like, that's neat, because he's going to like tell him, here's what I've learned from being alive all this time. And, you know, I have had a lot of wives and love and all this and blah, blah, blah. That stuff I really liked. I just, like I said, I wanted more of it. But then it's like, they're like, all right, we did that. I wrote that. How do I end it? I don't know where do I go with this? It's like a neat idea, which I think anybody who's ever written something has had tons of neat ideas. But then you're like, okay, this neat idea doesn't really go anywhere or do anything. Maybe I work it into something else later on, put it on the back burner. Seems like this was one of those that should have been done that. But he was just like, no, I'm going all in on this thing. And I'm going to write it and just tack on this ending to put an ending on the show. And I'm like, the ending just didn't ring true to the rest of the episode to me. Yeah. It was just kind of a way to end it. And I'm like, you could have, I don't know, could have ended it a whole bunch of other ways, you know, go deep into the whole conundrum of, you're going to marry this woman. I mean, even if they had gone the route of something like, instead of making him an asshole, make him someone who does care about her. He really does love her. He wants to be with this woman. So you've got this guy, maybe he's like, I know that you're going to be really good to her, and you love her, she loves you, and you guys are a great fit. I like you. Everything's perfect. The only problem is I know you're going to outlive her, and at some point you're going to leave. So it's like, I want her to be happy, and you make her happy, and you're going to be really good for her, probably better than anybody else she's going to find. But how long is that going to last? You know, it's like, I want that kind of conundrum of like, there is no bad guy here. It's just a bad situation. And how do we figure that out? But, and I felt like they were kind of going down that road. And then they said, okay, make him evil so we can kill him.
That's essentially it. And I think you bring up a good point, and what could have been would have been a lot cooler than what we got in that respect.
And I think that's where I was hung up on, like when we were talking earlier, is I like the implications of the episode and where it was going, because I really find that stuff interesting. And my frustrations are that it presented it really well, and then it just didn't go anywhere. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how that works. It's like you'll have like a great episode that just kind of one room, and then you have an episode like this, just like whatever you say.
It's like the Underworld movies. Hear me out.
Go.
It's like
Hear me out. Hey, it's like the Underworld movies. It's a really cool idea. It's a really cool world, really cool shit in them. And like, I like some of these characters in the lore and all that. Problem is that the movie, all that shit's in. That's where it kind of gets a bit shaky.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't awful, but it ain't great. It's not, it doesn't the movie that it's all contained in doesn't live up to the lore and all the other stuff in it. So that's kind of where this is the underworld of Twilight Zone, just less vampires.
So far, at least. I'm sure we're gonna run across more of those, but
it's like Twilight, you know. The
sparkling. No! Don't start on that. We don't compare those two.
That's not what we're reviewing. We're not reviewing Twilight.
No, we're not. If we're reviewing Twilight, I'm getting the hell out of this bitch.
Twinkle vampires.
No.
Yeah. Well, you think you don't think we're actually seeing the Batman, do you? We're seeing Twilight.
Well, then I will kindly let myself out the back if that's the case.
Yeah, stand up. Just grab Powder Toastman's ass cheeks.
Damn straight I will. Those ass cheeks are juicy.
Exactly.
Juicy.
Anytime somebody
yes,
says
sir.
Juicy,
I do like it.
Yes, sir. I do like it.
Shit. Good times. With that said, before we continue, Jacob, let's do the one paragraph closing narration with no Twilight Zone at the end, by the way.
Yeah. I made that I had that written here as well. This is one of the few episodes that does not say the words "the Twilight Zone" or "in the Twilight Zone," "at the Twilight Zone," or whatever. But yeah, this is easier than the beginning. Last stop on a long journey, as yet another human being returns to the vast nothingness that is the beginning, and into the dust that is always the end. That's
In
it.
So-
the Twilight Zone.
So this might piss off a lot of Christian people. Nothingness, that is the beginning, and into the dust, that is always the end.
Dun dun
Dun, dun, dun.
dun.
But you know,
What was
Christians-
Sterling's? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say that the to dust, I mean, that's part of it's in the Bible. It's, to dust you are and to dust you return. So in theory, I agree with you that I don't think it's a going in a Christian direction. I do think the dust to
I was
dust
making a
thing
joke.
does.
No,
Yeah, but there are
I
things
was
that come
making-
up in the show
I'll just
Yeah.
that
over here.
do
Can't
question
move.
some things. Wow. Uh-oh.
I was trying to leave since I couldn't see a joke
Can't
and
move.
I can't.
Stuck.
I'm sorry. Okay, so Rod
Stuck.
Serling was a Reformed Jew, and he did not believe in the Bible. Apparently,
Okay.
that's
Which I
what
know
it
Rod
says.
Serling
He
didn't
was-
write this
yeah.
episode, but he definitely had creative input on all
Mhm.
the episodes.
Oh yeah.
And there's been things that have popped up in this show before. And once again, we got to understand what time period is. But there are things that pop up here or there that are kind of like a little more unconventional than what you usually saw. Just subtle things usually. But I wondered. I mean, once again, his beliefs are his own, but I didn't know if they were like out there and known to the public or not.
He believes in Cthulhu.
Exactly.
Okay. Right on. Good for
Damn.
him. Oh, and by the way, on that note, I looked it up. It said in a sad irony, after everybody else lived a long time, writer Charles Beaumont had a very short life, dying at the age of 38 from early
Wow.
onset Alzheimer's disease.
Holy
And it
shit.
goes on with a quote from his son. But yeah, he was only 38 when he died.
Wow. Can you imagine that, having early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, like that early in your life? Because isn't that usually like later?
normal.
Like
Yeah.
usually.
It's usually
So-
later on because it is it's deterioration of the mind. So you get some deterioration either way the older you get, of course. So it usually is more, you're more susceptible to it when you get older, but it's not
Yeah.
it's less likely, but it's not totally unheard of for younger
Yeah.
people to get it.
Yeah.
Man, that is such a Alzheimer's and dementia. That is a fucking terrible disease,
Yeah.
man.
I
That is
wouldn't
a
wish that on
fucking
anybody.
awful disease.
Oof.
So overall, we're pretty. I mean, Jacob's probably more positive than maybe you or I, Triv. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk?
I am, but in talking to
you're
you
a little more
guys,
positive,
it's kind of
yeah.
like I there were things about it.
My
I
plan has
liked,
worked.
but no, and that's how that's how what I like about talking about these things is like I take my initial reaction, just my basic carnal initial reaction is, oh yeah, I liked something about this thing, and then as we talk about it and discuss it, it's like, yeah, I like what it was is I didn't like the episode so much as I like this thing, but I didn't like that and this and blah blah blah. So yeah, I don't think this is a terrible episode, but it had issues and I didn't like the
Yeah.
end. I didn't hate the end. I just felt as if the end was, I saw the end of a different episode, but I liked the questions it arose and the direction it could have gone, but
What
coulda,
might
woulda,
have
shoulda.
been.
What might have been. All right. Driv, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
That I think it feels, and it's hard to say this with any sense of certainty, being that we're only 24 episodes in, but it feels like a very middle of the road. I guess I walked away and it wasn't exciting enough to make me go whoa, but it wasn't like terrible. It's very much a upper meh. It had good
What were
stuff. Like the actors did what they needed to do. There was some compelling bits, like Jacob said, the way that they did it, they left it vague enough where it's not like you can't poke holes in it as much, but it was also, and you could still get the idea of, I was wandering an Asian market and I stumbled across a creature that I'm not supposed to, give water to at night, but here,
Yes,
enjoy, so, it's that level
I was
of
walking through the wholesale flower district that day.
exactly.
And I walked by.
Feed
I know
me,
that movie very well.
baby.
So with that said, we'll kind of finish up with the Twilight Zone list where we rank the episodes based on what we think, which is of course the official rankings list. Nobody else can do it better than us.
Of course not. We're simply the
That's
best.
right.
Better than all the
Best
rest.
Simply the best.
Around.
Better than anyone. Anyway.
Nobody's gonna keep us down. We're the best around.
We're not gonna take it.
Uh,
No, we ain't gonna take it. Anyway.
that too.
Yeah. He's doing a British version of
D. Snyder.
yeah.
Was it D. Snyder? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Twisted Sister. Yeah,
Twisted Sister.
Well, I am a twisted sister, so it works.
exactly.
My makeup's not that good though, but
Okay, so where would you guys put this? Is this better than Third, or is this worse than Third from the Sun? Do you think? Are we going down like to the? Because I'll tell you right now what I think. I think this is on par with Mr. Denton on Doomsday. To be fairly honest, I think it has the same kind of feel to it. But where would you guys put it?
I think Third from the Sun's better than this, even though I like some of the themes and some of the things they talked about.
Hmm.
I know I'm the one who thought the highest.
no,
Or at
it's
least we're
okay.
saying that. I had the best opinion of this, but in all honesty, after our discussion, I do think that this is not as good as Third from the Sun. Actually, it's on down. Where do you guys fall with it? And then
I'd be good
I'll
with
look at
it
that.
around like the Lonely. And regardless, not very far off where Nick is, but that's kind of where I fall.
I shot an arrow into the air. That's the one where they started disappearing
Yeah,
one at a time. Yeah. The astronauts, when they came down, they were like in the wrong dimension or
Yep.
something.
There's like a newspaper. There's the one dude in the phone booth who
Yeah,
calls
I was
his
just about to
wife.
say the phone booth.
That classic phone
Mr.
booth
Denton
scene.
Mr. Denton
Oh,
on
the,
Doomsday.
20-cent beer or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
10-cent beer.
What went up by episode?
Yeah.
Mr. Denton on Doomsday. That's the Western.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where he gets the magic potion that's supposed to help him beat whoever he wants to beat, but then the other guy also took the potion.
The other guy, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing: is Mr. Denton on Doomsday? Clearly, I wasn't here for that one, but clearly we didn't think super highly of it, sitting at 18.
Well,
right
it started higher at one point, but it just like
Ooh.
it's a relatively early episode, and
Yeah, it's like the third episode, I think.
Yeah, and the story
Yeah.
told was done better by episodes that came after.
I'm gonna say, there were things in this episode I liked more than anything in Mr. Denton on Doomsday. However, this episode was very all over the place and I didn't feel as if it was well put together. I thought those individual parts, like with the conversation between the guy and all that, the first half, if you will,
Mhm.
was done well, and I enjoyed that. And I thought that was put together fine, but the ending's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I feel like a lot of stuff starts to fall apart there because, like I said, I didn't feel like the ending was ever their original idea when they first conceived this thing. And I feel like at least Mr. Denton on Doomsday, while it was kind of like one trick pony, it was
literally.
Yeah, it was it was consistent throughout, and it flowed better. Judgment Night was
That was the
The
boat
guy
one.
in the boat. The
Nazis
repeating
following.
boat.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, that one was kind of a little messy at the end too.
I think Judgment Night and this episode are consistent with being just kind of messy, not really great endings to episode. I think Judgment Night actually had a better ending, but at this point we're just talking about like minute details about which had the messier premise.
Well, they are similar in that way that the first half to first 2/3 of both these episodes was fine. It was the payoff, or the ending, or I guess the payoff was just kind of what like I get it, but really what? And just the way that it was presented. I remember that about Judgment Night too. The way that its ending was presented was just kind of like, it seems needlessly confusing. It doesn't need to be. I don't know. Yeah, I'd say this is like right around in the Judgment Night. Yeah. Either above or below Judgment Night. So either number 18 or number 20, in my opinion. But what do you guys say? Did you like 16mm Shrine more than this one?
No.
I
Never.
think putting this one between Mr. Denton and Judgment Night seems like a solid place for it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that works. Judgment Night, I just think they're both both these episodes are really depressing if you really think about it. Mr. Denton on
yeah.
Doomsday is definitely a little more optimistic than this episode.
Well, Judgment Night also was just kind of a little boring. Like nothing real
Mm.
great or interesting was happening in it. I can at least say with this one, that part where it was discussing how he got how he is and what all he's experienced, even though it wasn't as fleshed out as I would have liked and didn't go where I wanted it to go. I found it more interesting than anything in Judgment Night. So while I find the structure of both those episodes to be extremely similar, I'm going to say this one at least had something that piqued my interest for a little bit. Judgment Night didn't really. It was just kind of like that background episode. I think I was doing something else while it was on because I was like, they've already rated this one anyway, and nothing about it's really catching me. I'm going to edit a video while I do this.
Well, and again, it does kind of fall into that meh area. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
There are solid things about it that raises some good questions, but for what we're shown on screen, which is ultimately the way you have to judge one of these things, it's kind of meh.
Yeah, I agree. It's just this is like that section where you're just like, if it's on, I'd watch it, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch it, that type of thing. So that's how I look at it.
I feel like there's not much of a progression with our list either. Like it's not our fault. It's the episodes. They go from, because I'm looking at the list here and I'm like, okay, escape clause, last flight, and when the sky was open, the lonely, I shot an arrow into the. I remember liking some of these more than others, but I remember having a good time at least with all these, and even Mr. Denton on Doomsday. Well, it was a bit, but right around in that area, like it goes from shot an arrow into the into the air.
Shot
You leave Jeff alone.
Pretty sorry, Jeff. Pretty good, at least good episodes to like. There is a big leap down to these down here, the bottom 5 or so. That it's just there's no like subtle progression. I'm wondering if we're going to get there. If there's going to be a curve, or if it's going to be very much like a valley by the end. We'll see.
It's weird too. The thing that you know why that is because when you get episodes like Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and the Purple Testament and I don't know, World of Difference or something like that, I think when they take chances and when they do it with reverence and style, I think it just makes the other episodes feel kind of flat. Like they're good episodes. Like I'm not gonna like not watch everything but the last 2 episodes, but it's just they're very flat in their nature and they don't feel as exciting. But when you watch it, you're like, yeah, it was fine. I'll watch it again until you get to the 4 of Us Are Dying of Fever, and nobody will ever watch those. But
yeah, man, you can say that
that's the
about
problem.
this. It's better than the Fever. It's better than the 4 of Us Are Dying. It
better.
wins those 2 awards for sure.
But it's just how you gotta look at it. It's like watching any show. Like you'll watch the first episode, go, that was good, and then like, I don't know, a season later, you'll be like, what was I thinking about that episode? It's just the way that the Twilight Zone works, I guess. But with that said, I think that's a good spot. So the new number 19 is going to be Long Live Walter Jameson. Monsters Are Due on Maple Street is number 1. The Fiva is number 24. Next episode that we're going to be talking about is an episode I kind of remember just from the title alone, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's called The People Are Like All Over, directed by Mitchell Leisen, written by Rod Serling. Stars Roddy McDowall, which is
Nice.
pretty
Ooh.
big actor. Yeah, who's been in a lot of shit in his life before he died in 1998. So he did a lot of. He was in like one of the Planet of the Apes movies, wasn't he?
He was in the first and third.
Oh, Cornelius. That's right.
Movies.
Nice.
He did not play Cornelius in the second one. Cornelius
Caesar.
wasn't in the second one very much.
Mm.
Yeah, he played Caesar in the 4th or 5th one too. His son. He skipped one, but they got so much makeup on, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, that will do it. That'll be our take on season 1, episode 24, which is Long Live Walter Jameson. Wish it could have been better, but yeah, it happens. It's a TV show. Things suck every once in a while. So with that said, we'll head out and Triv, when they are looking for your 2D slim figure that only can be seen from one angle, where can they find your content?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube at Trivial Theater. By the time this drops, we will have I will have completed a collab with Nick on Abraham Lincoln versus zombies, which should be quite a lot of fun. And then you can also find me on Twitter at trivia_chick.
And cool. Yeah, that was a fun collab. I gotta admit that was an interesting movie. We'll just put
Yes,
it
it
at that
was.
respect. Yes, it was. And
I've seen
Jake,
the cover of it. I've never seen the movie. I've seen the cover
it's
because I
so
love
bad.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and I know it's like a knockoff of that, isn't it?
Oh, it's
Yeah,
a
it's on
total
the side
knockoff of that.
And Jacob, when you're not building computers that will price you out of house and home, where can they find your content?
You can find my content on YouTube at Jacob Anders Reviews, and also my new gaming channel, which I'm slowly trying to grow, Jacob Anders Gaming. I know my naming, the way I name my channels is extremely original. Thank you. And I'm also on Twitter and at Red Neville 2. But on my YouTube channel, I will be getting back to with my move and everything. I laid off my content frequency as much, but by the time this comes out, I think at the time that this comes out or 1 week later, I will be going to videos every day again, and I will also be returning to my weekly now comic book movie review series, deep dives on those once a week on Wednesdays. So
Cool.
check that out and
Woohoo.
subscribe
Yeah.
to my gaming channel so I can do gaming stuff.
Show both these guys some love. They're pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
there you go. You know, for the longest time, this is
Give me
no
some
joke.
sugar,
I
buddy.
thought you were in the military. I thought you would jar like you were in the Marines or something like that. And then you did JAG. I'm like, he must. I didn't realize what it was, but then I'm like, then he said JAG. I'm like, oh, he must love that TV show, the JAG show for because he is a father, so you know that's a father show. So
Yeah, sure.
Well, you know, he ain't got no intro.
That was I've got more comments on that shit right there than any of the videos on that whole channel, and I'm like, I literally was sitting there that night and I was like, I need some type of intro. I was like, I don't know what to fucking put, and I was tired and I was like, I don't feel like making a fucking intro, so I just recorded myself saying that and put that up there. I was like, it'll be temporary. Yeah. People like it, so
Keep it.
I guess I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna roll with
exactly.
it. I had some random ass sound effects, and I was like, sure. Is that a fucking dolphin in there? It's like 4:30 in the morning. Go for it.
Oh man. So yeah, definitely check out Triv and Jacob's channels. They're definitely worth a watch. You can reach me at Movie Emporium. That's where my YouTube channel is at. That's where the Twilight Zone videos are at. Movie Emporium on Twitter, all that good stuff. Find us on audio feeds like Apple and Google. I always joke around, but like if you leave a comment and you leave star rating stuff like that, that does help us get audience views. So definitely check that out. And you know, if you don't want to see our ugly faces or whatever. So anyways, that'll do it. We're heading out, and we'll see you guys next time on the Twilight Zone. Peace out, guys.
Bah.
Bye-bye.
We ain't got no outro.
I ain't got no outro. Poor. All my life I've always been poor, and I keep asking God what I'm for.
Like he showed up and he had like hand suckers as compared to like teeth. Like he never bit anybody. He just like put his hand on their chest and then sucked them, which sounds terrible.
It's gonna be a good out of context at the end of the video.
Because
continue. You don't take my. Oh shit! I moved Greg. I mean.
Oh, damn. What the fuck is happening?